is the start of our escape and respite from this world of ours. And if I were to tell you just how much I look forward to this episode, no one would believe me, including myself, because it is such a force, such a presence in my life, and it is just hilarious to me. But all of that aside, thank you for being here. Thank you for getting ready to dive into this maelstrom of chaos that you have stirred up as we grieve the loss of Sabatier, as we come to grips with at least this most pressing of immediate losses for the coterie. And before we dive completely into the midst of it all, are there any questions, suggestions, hypotheses, or corners we need to round off? Lovely silence, letting us know that we are reading, in fact, from the same book, if not the same chapter, verse, and page. And I know I say it a lot, and I've already said it once tonight, but I still want to say it again. Thank you for your time, your energy, your efforts, and the opportunities to get to know these characters and yourselves. It means a lot. This means so very much, and is not ever taken for granted. And that being that, as it were, without going into too much detail and without doing until we don't, I'd like to say that this is officially Soup City Sins, Season 18. You have to let go to move forward. We're picking up seconds, brief eye blinks, which most of the kindred in the room have to remind themselves to do because they are no longer anywhere near living. And the vast majority of our coterie, the vast majority of the shelter, don't tempt the beast in pretending to be human. These wolves don't wear sheepskin. These wolves play amongst the sheep in all of their violent predatory glory. Thanks to various dispositions of their long lost living selves, for the most part, it is in fact overlooked. Lucio, having even been pale during life, is typically just accepted as a big, tall, tough guy. Miriam, her tattoos adorning her skin, making it very easy to assume that perhaps that bluish tint is because the tattoos are in fact old. Lolly, bright and disarming, her hair masking the bulk of what could easily be seen as something unliving. And then Hestia, her head of curls usually bound tightly to her scalp, the glasses obfuscating just how dark the shadows in her eyes, the bit of soul that peeks out, actually is. All of these things helping a natural camouflage for the coterie without tempting the razor tooth saw blade that is the beast. And for a police officer, for someone who has given their life in an effort to actually do good, to not simply protect property, to not simply be used as a weapon in disputes, to actually serve and protect the community that he loved. Sergeant Kamal is more concerned about community relations in this. Dying is never easy. Dying violently, while it can happen in the blink of an eye, is never so easily wrapped up as when the moment of death takes the victim. There are months of investigations. There are weeks of non-sleep. There are veritable armies of individuals too bored with the constant death, but yet unable to turn a blind eye to it, trying to find what was the cause. And typically, they find the easiest, most simplistic, direct path to declare cause of death, even in the most violent of situations. So while it is over, it is never over. And the spirits of the dead speak through the living, the bored, and the otherwise affected. So Kamau, looking at the picture, then looking at another, then looking at another, it's clear that something is percolating beneath the surface as he raises the glasses and leans right into a picture of a tall African male, a short, ruddy-faced Latino male with a beard, dressed for all intents and purposes like the reporting version of Indiana Jones, sans hat and whip. He even has a messenger bag still slung across his shoulders. In the background, you can see Hestia sitting with one of the guests, one of the residents. Over her shoulder is Lucio, and there, in the corner, beneath all of that murky blur that seems to be possessing Lucio as if he walked into a smoke cloud right before the picture was snapped, there is a face he did not think he would ever see again. One of his training officers from the good old days, the bad old days, back when busting heads was the mission of the day. He frowns and he leans in closer. Lucio and Hestia remember that picture, because that was one of the last pictures taken before Julius applied himself more directly to pursuing the coattails of the Chicago Tremere. Even in the picture, it looks like he needs a shave. Even in the picture, as dead as he is, he seems to be a hard-drinking, hard-living man of some girth. And Kamau takes a second and stares into the picture. So to paint the picture more succinctly, the coterie is awaiting, knows that there are at least two detectives on their way to the shelter. The coterie knows that the police don't exactly care about justice as a monolithic entity. Their goal is to close as many cases in whichever way they can, so that they can continue securing their support from the local government and from the state government. As long as they close case percentages at a certain level, they are above scrutiny. And you have two detectives, at least two detectives, on their way to the shelter, where the vast majority of the population are easy targets of any miscarriage you can imagine. Hey, brother, you know this guy?
Which guy?
Any point past the shadowy, smoky essence of you that you can tell even all those many months ago had begun to manifest itself with technology. Just over your shoulder, back in the top right corner of the picture, is Julius Fairmont.
I know of him, but I haven't seen him in over 2 years.
2 years? Huh. That's interesting.
Why is that?
You wouldn't happen to know his name, would you?
Honestly, off the top of my head, no.
Hey, Miss Green, do you know who this guy is?
Yes, I'm fairly, mostly acquainted in passing, and he worked here for a short time as a volunteer, but it didn't last long.
When did he start working here? I'm sorry, that sounds ominous. What's this guy's name? You know, people have twins all over the place.
That's Julius. Sorry, it's been a while since I've seen him. It's been, like Lucio said, it's been some time.
Julius. His last name, Fairmont?
I believe so, yeah. Fairly busy guy, though, so like I said, he spent some time here, but not a lot.
Miriam, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your wits plus either subterfuge or persuasion? Lolly, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your wits? No, I'm sorry, resolve plus for me, please.
Resolve an aspect, you said?
Oh, yes.
I muted. It was with subterfuge or which with
Persuasion. Use at beast, because for some strange reason there's two thirsts that Discord picks up, and I was testing that out the other day and found that it needs to be renamed. All right, so that being the case, several things happen at once, as is always the problem. I'm just waiting on Miriam's result, but for Lolly, invisibly present, watching this teleplay, this very tense drama happening right before her eyes. The scrutiny that the police officer pays to the pictures is the same scrutiny that you've seen in every iteration of Sherlock Holmes or in Columbo and Hercule Poirot and Mrs. Marple and Miss Fletcher. It's the same, slowly building a case with information that is readily available, but no one else is paying attention to. You can see the threads holding the sword of Damocles over your head unframed to fall crashing down through the center of the glass plate that this house of cards is built upon. And as an idea begins to start, percolate the back of your head that dead men tell no tales. That typically means that the dead don't talk. At least that's what most people understand. But the truth of that was meant that dead men tell no lies. You're not sure why that phrase sits in your head, but dead men tell no lies. And he's looking at a picture filled with kindred helping mortals. So there's a lot of dead men in that picture. But that phrase sticks with you. Dead men tell no lies. Dead men tell no lies. And while that's happening for Lolly, invisibly at hand, watching as everything happens, Miriam, there was a time when you were a loving, precocious child. You were the apple of your parents' eyes. You gave them all the joy they could ever hope for. And they in turn returned all of that open-eyed love with rules and demands. And they taught you to worry. They taught you to fret. They taught you to mind your P's and Q's and to be present but silent. So you learned to watch and take in the world and make it as beautiful as you could. In response to that, they didn't even realize that was the lesson they were teaching you. They were just teaching you to be a quiet, happy, well-behaved child. How things have changed. And yet you still are that same child underneath it all, and you watch as there is trouble brewing. It was the same game your father played, getting you to relate the information you didn't want to relay, getting you to build a case against yourself, to have your watercolors taken or your sketchbook confiscated, or because they didn't believe in grounding you. They ground the things that you enjoyed filling your time with. Oh, that's it. Monopoly's up for a week. How dare it? Or the time they locked your watercolors in the freezer so that a puddle of ice built up over the paints. It didn't ruin them completely because you still made use of them, but it meant you, when they came out those 4 days later, nicely frozen with ice built up, they were far more watery than they should have been when you defrosted them. It took several days of you carefully sneaking away to get your mother's hair dryer and standing over your paints trying to dry them out so they would be usable once more. And that same feeling is brewing in your chest as you watch Sergeant Kamau look at picture after picture and then begin asking questions.
Lolly will carefully slide behind Lucio and whisper ever so softly in his ear that the wise wolf protects his pack even when he doesn't want to.
Kamal adjusts his glasses back into place, and you can tell that there's some pressure building, and he's doing his best to ignore it and to fight it off, but it causes his right eye to twitch really quickly until he massages just around the leg of the glasses over his ear, and right under it, his fingers forming two V's on the sides of his head, as he's clearly going down some protocol, while he's clearly compiling some list in his head, and he's trying to not see what's actually there, but it is in fact quite obvious to him, and yet he doesn't want to believe it. It's clear that whatever is forming in his thoughts, whatever dance his neurons are doing as they fire and bombard each other, he would rather not be the case, but it is, without a shadow of a doubt, something is aligning.
So, as he looks like he is starting to possibly get a headache, Miriam will just grab one of the single-use packs of ibuprofen that they probably have, and like pour a small little tumbler of water and offer them to him. Wouldn't it for you to get a migraine while you're working on this? And she's going to gently pull the picture away from him and catch his eyes and use cloud memory.
It is a skillfully done thing. However, he is a police officer who is coming to a crime relatively in the middle of an investigation. He's coming to a crime to make information possible and make it easy for others to do their job. So he's on his guard, and it's hard for police not to play games, though his game was considerably far more honest than the average. You will need to roll. You will need to have at least one success, with more, of course, being far more appreciated. And cloud memory. I actually did have it open this week. I was a few pages away from where I need to be, but, you know, close counts, right? That's going to be your charisma plus dominate. And no tempting the beast.
Would I do that?
Oh, that's where all the fun is.
Right? There we go.
There's far more resistance in mortal mind than there should be. Certain mortals, they have a hardened shell around their soft, squishy minds, and all that encompasses is what they believe themselves to be. You've noticed that over the last few whiles of attempting to reach into the minds of others, Kamal's mind is considerably more fossilized than it should be. Not quite to the level of other kindred, but it's considerably more hardened. And as you push and move things and cause the last few moments to fade into nothingness as he stands there with the ibuprofen and the cup of water, he frowns at you. Instead of the small, acceptable and expected touches, the slight head shake, the eyes going up and down like marbles loosed in their sockets, there's a frown. And he looks from you to the cup, downs the ibuprofen, takes a sip. Thank you.
You'd like to have a seat?
No, I can't. I probably shouldn't be here right when they get here. I don't want to make it seem as if I'm tampering with the scene.
Of course not. The offer still stands if you're hungry. I'm sure that they'll make a plate. You look a little faint. Have you
Yeah.
eaten today?
Yeah, it's like I saw a ghost. I know people say that all the time, but that's what it feels like. I don't know if you ever had an Indian grandma, but it make you. Yeah, you know what? Don't mind if I do. Hey, Lou, take a walk.
Sure thing.
And as Sergeant Kamal and Lucio step out of the triage, is there anything that Miriam, Lolly, or Hestia would like to discuss?
That one knows too damn much. And she goes to the wall and starts looking through the pictures herself to make sure there are no more fuck-ups like that. Taking down ones that she thinks might cause questions and taking that one specific one that seems to had triggered all this and hiding them in the file cabinet and locking it.
So as you take the pictures down, there's a huge blast of memory as you start moving pictures from the walls of the triage center. The blast of memory is in each of the pictures. There's you or Alex or Simone or Julius. There's even pictures of Orm in all of his smarmy reptilian glory. They're speaking to and actually helping the residents, like bolstering them, providing some semblance of self so that they can build from. And through it all, in each of the pictures, the most glaring part, the most glaring fact is that each of those members seem to actually care about what they were doing, including the few pictures of Simone along the side of the building fixing cameras or ensuring that the shelter itself, the actual coteries haven, was properly boarded. There were things in the way to create a maze and make it almost indecipherable for someone not actually part of the coterie to find their way through. And that, more than anything, combined with Sebastian's loss, causes the welling up of all manner of things.
Lolly will shimmer back into reality and, or at least her version of reality, and turn her head and look through Hestia oddly.
As somebody who can see the other or things that other people can't see, I know that look. So what are you seeing?
I see that you were troubled. These are pictures of dead people.
Or ones that should be dead to the people that are living. But they worked here and they helped here. And I didn't think about the fact that somebody might know them from before. Most of us were old enough that anybody we knew from our lifetimes was now gone, so it didn't seem like a problem till now. I mean, hell, I still got somebody from my past life, and I've been avoiding going to see him.
Why?
Because it's complicated. When he was alive and I was alive, we were lovers. But now his son wouldn't exist if I hadn't stepped back and steered his life in a different direction, thinks I'm his long-lost sister. Because we look so much alike, and I look like his father's old love. Of course I do, because that was fucking me, but he won't let it go. He wants me to go visit him and tell him that, it wasn't his fault and that I exist because he thinks I'm my daughter.
Time for us is infinite, but again, at the same time, it isn't.
Well, I think my time might have just gotten a little bit shorter. Because it occurs to me what happened that I made several bigger mistakes than I thought about.
I would move the pictures somewhere safer.
That's true, because they're going to search the office and search anywhere in here if... so she takes all the pictures and since they're done in the triage area and he went for a walk, she is going to take them back through the office and into the Haven proper and stash them there.
I would go see your friend, though. There's enough for us to regret without choosing something.
And speaking of regrets and choices, Lucio and Sergeant Kamal, Elijah, as Lou knows him, or Eli, depending on how drunk he was at the moment. And drunk not because of alcohol, but more inebriated on the good feelings and times that they shared. Elijah is, despite being a police officer, an avowed teetotaler. Never touches the stuff. Never has. Always sought to be in as sober of a mind as possible, which didn't help him not be one of the more crazy individuals from Lucio's past. Willing to do because it had to be done, no matter what it was. Whether it was leaping off the buoy into Lake Michigan, whether it was skinny dipping, whether it was standing up to several larger, older individuals. Elijah was the person that did. He believed in protecting what mattered most, which were people, and the people that he cared about. So as you all exit the triage center, the hospital for the shelter, begin making your way towards Amalia's splendiferous cooking. There is no way that a shelter should be gifted with such delectably prepared meals. And she feeds everyone. The schedule for meals, there are 4 major meals a day, and between each of those meals are snacks. So there's small grab and go things being prepared. And most of it being freshly acquired. Things in season, things from the local markets, it's amazing what they are able to do. Her, Sebastian, Donnell, with so little. Compared to how many they serve, how many people are part of the permanent community, part of the transient community, part of the just fly by night kids who get kicked out or have otherwise stayed out later than they should, kids who break curfew. They provide a real sense of community, and they're able to touch more lives because they truly believe in what they do. It's one of the few things that you do actively miss, because Faye and Sella truly believe in what they do. They believe in protecting the underserved, speaking for those with no voice. They believe that if you do something, even if it's small, if you do it with the right sense, that it will work out, even when they were doing the wrong thing. And as you and Elijah move toward the commissary, you see Selma there, arranging garbage cans, collecting the discarded garbage from various tables and wiping tables down. And you can tell that she'd rather be anywhere and everywhere in the world than where she was. She looks up and she sees you moving that way with the police officer and finds your way to the back end of the commissary. It's far away from the door and far away from the cop as she can get. And then she continues wiping down tables, but now she's doing so with her back towards the door. Hey Lou, brother, I don't know how to tell you this, but I really got a bad feeling about this place. And it just happened all of a sudden. Like, you know, I've been there before and everything was mostly okay. But this time I just got a bad feeling. I don't think this is going to work out. I think maybe you should distance yourself. We got Jack. I don't know if you remember that guy. He used to work with the Bull up near Howard Beach. He used to roust everybody when there's time for the beach to close.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah. And he's got his training detective of sorts, new kid, Gene something, looking to make a name for himself, says that he'll be a district attorney within 10 years.
The overeager type.
Yeah, he's going to night school for law now, trying to get his Juris Doctorate. And I got a bad feeling.
You've known me for a long time, so speak plainly. What exactly do you think is going on?
I don't know how much you know about cops, about the cliques, but even as
Considering that I didn't make it past the selection exam, not a whole lot.
even as a sergeant, I'm not in with the detectives. But even with all the jokes about me being a diversity hire, even all the jokes in the ribbon, I'm kind of respected. They know I'm going to do my absolute best. I'm going to put my best foot forward. I'm going to do the right thing, whatever I think is the right thing within the law. And they were okay, for the most part, about me snooping around, sniffing around. Almost like they want to have a witness that they didn't do anything wrong, or that they wouldn't do anything wrong. And most times in a situation like that, they only don't care if the scene is mucked about, or people stick their nose in, which of course is a slam dunk. So yeah, I'm here to get you guys to play nice with them so that they don't have a reason to do anything else, but they're just too cocky about this. They are too confident about this. And look, and he looks at his watch and then points to the clock on the wall. They're coming at this hour of the night. Normally we don't see these things on my shift. Normally it's the cleanup. Normally it's the canvassing. Normally it's the few questions here or there. But we're 2 days into this, right when the clock is about to run out, and they're willing to make a house call at this hour of the evening, because that's basically what this is. And he looks around. Molly is there with the cigarette still in her lips. It's not lit, but it's still there, and she's serving up a storm, and she's pushing people this way and that way. She's demanding something be cut or something be dropped, and gathering plates up herself, taking a few of the trays out of others' hands and moving back into the kitchen. But she pauses in the doorway, frowns towards him, frowns towards you, shakes her head and moves back into the kitchen. The other residents, those clearly experienced enough with police and being rousted or worse, this is old hat for them. You can see it on their face, that resignation that something is about to go down. The last time the police came here, there were bodies. The last time the police came here, they trucked out those two little high school girls and called them all sorts of terrorists. No one's saying it loud enough to be overheard, but you can tell that's part of what's being murmured back and forth. The last time the police showed up, they assaulted the family that is the community here.
They're coming at this hour. Well, they ought to know they won't be able to get anything from these people. So, you think they already have something?
That'd be my instinct. You know, I'm not gonna pull the wool over your eyes, brother, but it looks bad. It's almost as if they're just coming to confirm what they already have. They've already closed out their murder book. They've already gathered everything they needed, and now they just need a confession. I could be wrong, but I'm really hoping that I am. But I don't think I am.
I'm hoping you're wrong too, but knowing your track record, I have a bad feeling.
If you had to, as a way to maybe save the dog and pony show that looks like it's heading this way, if you had to, and he pauses and steps a little closer so that his voice doesn't carry, looking around these people, looking around your staff members, is there anybody that could be capable of such a thing? And remember, they already got most of the records, or have had opportunity to pull most of the records. You can make it easy. We can get them into the cruiser. We can get them down to the precinct, and maybe save whatever it is, whatever show they're trying to put on here.
Lucio goes quiet for a moment, realizing what exactly he's asking him to do. He doesn't say anything for a while. I will confess, I don't know many of these people as personally as Miss Green does. Maybe I can ask her what she thinks.
Yeah. I'll give you a couple of minutes. I'll see if I can get a plate and then get in line with the others who are lining up for a bite. A succulent bite of Malia's cookie. She's done something with Cornish game hens, and there's something that looks like mashed potatoes, though if you are being honest, it probably isn't. It's probably some wizardry she's done with cauliflower. There's some steamed roasted veggies and some sauce that she's whipped up from God knows what, but it smells absolutely delicious.
Lucio's about to get up and go back to Hestia, but he stops for a moment and turns back to Elijah. This might be a weird question, maybe not even the right time to ask this, but Do you ever regret going into this field?
Who are you kidding, brother? Every day. Every day. It shouldn't be as hard as it is, but it is. Nearly everything that the average person does is illegal somehow if it affects property. Nearly every moment where I could exercise some discretion, I can't, because I'm going to be questioned by the person that I'm giving a break to. I'm going to get questioned by the white shirt LTs. I'm going to get questioned by the Office of Public Standards. And in this day and age, if you get questioned, your name, your phone number, sometimes even your address gets leaked. And you got people showing up outside of your house screaming at all hours of the night, or in my case, all hours of the day when you're trying to get some sleep. And then you get bullshit calls where you have to drive up and down the street several times with your lights flashing, your sirens on, because someone in that neighborhood has launched a complaint against the department. Or when you do get a chance to do some actual real police work, you get to protect the public, ensure the common safety and well-being, you get spit on, or worse. You take it for granted. People call you when there's an emergency, but then spit on you when you get there. Every day I regret. And every day I tell myself why it's okay to regret. Somebody's got to be the line between what's really important. Remember what your dad used to say? It's not see something, say something. It is do something, even if you don't see it. Because every little good thing you do creates a better tomorrow. It gets better as long as you keep doing. So yeah, every day, brother, every day.
Thanks for sharing that. Makes me feel a lot better about failing that exam all those years ago.
You know, if you hadn't failed, I probably wouldn't have joined.
You trying to one-up me? Was that it?
No, you and your old man were the best friends I had growing up. Your sister, Stella, come to close second, with Faye coming to close third. I had a big family, but you guys actually loved and cared for each other. Like, it wasn't a duty for you. Watching that happen gave me something to look forward to. It gave me something to aspire to. And so I kind of felt that I owed you and your old man when you didn't make it in. One of his sons, and at least the most handsome one of his sons, needed to be a cop. Speaking of which, how is your old man? I haven't got a chance to get by and see him in a couple of months. I've been busy with the investigation. No, I'm talking your head off. Go see about that. I'll get a bite to eat. We'll buy some time and then we'll figure this out.
Will do. Lucia will walk away at this point.
There's something contagious about desperation and frenetic action. And that's exactly what you walk into as Hestia has the last stack of pictures. The small, cheap frames picked up from dollar stores here and there and on sale at TJ Maxx in her hands. But each of those frames, inside of each of them is the kernel of a memory. It's the kernel of something to be proud of, yet she's holding them as if she is sneaking away from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, as if she's trying to hide from God, trying to cover her nakedness and her shame. But each of those pictures is a good memory. Each of those pictures is a moment in time where dead things did something for the living. Each of those pictures should be something you're proud of. They're proof that you were here, that you mattered to more than just your own selfish sensibilities. You mattered to more than just the beast. The only question at this point is, had Miriam and Lolly decided to help the removal of the pictures, the removal of the evidence?
Miriam would probably help carry them, but since she doesn't really know which ones are important or need to stay up, she'll let Hestia direct everything.
Okay, we'll find something, hopefully nearby, to clean the wall with.
Oh, so she's snooping in behind doors and following her nose and following the sense and feel of all that's come before in this place that is best approximated with Pandemonium, the home of demons.
She's probably done a fair bit of snooping already.
And Hestia, as you all but crash into Lucio as he makes his way back.
I take it you know that one.
He's been a good friend to me for a long time.
And you might want to keep him out of this because he knows too fucking much.
Yes, I have an important question for you, and I want you to answer honestly. Out of every member in this shelter, who were you willing to give up to save yourself?
It's funny because none of them deserve it. And I wouldn't. Amalia is too much needed. Arnell has been through too much. The new people haven't been here long enough to take the blame for anything.
And the residents?
They loved him. Why would they even think to hurt him? That's a hard sell.
Is it? The detectives that are coming here most likely already know what happened and are just trying to get a confession. At least that's what Elijah thinks. If we can throw someone else under the bus first, we might be able to avoid a catastrophe for ourselves.
Oh, I know they think they know what happened. But you and I both know they would never really and truly understand what happened. I have a feeling that I think I know what they have. I did my best to be careful, but I think I failed. So, I suppose if you're insisting that we pin this on somebody else, we should figure out who the fuck to pin it on. I don't like the idea of that. But what choice do we have? I mean, I could always confess. She shakes her head and walks away from him.
It's ultimately your decision. You're the one who, well, you know what you did. And these are your people. If you want to take the fall for it, then go right ahead. That's your choice. But losing one resident of the shelter is ultimately going to cause not much issue. Some of the other residents will be on edge for a while. They'll probably wonder how could they have miss the signs, blah, 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 but eventually things will die down. If you get caught, the owner, the founder of the shelter, and it gets out that the person running this place is a killer, this whole place shuts down. It's up to you what you think will ultimately be the right choice here.
I suppose you're right. It's my unlife, but it affects all of these lives that I've worked so hard to keep safe, versus one potential person that could have turned their life around, I guess. But if they haven't done it yet, who's to say they ever will, right? Eeny, meeny, miny, moe. Does that work for you?
There isn't something that maybe should be considered. Aren't we essentially, I guess the term would be leasing the shelter from someone who may have someone they might want to throw under the bus, or could take the fall, or just even, hush the investigation period?
Actually, I have his card, and I think if push comes to shove, I was going to point them at him anyway. Not as in who to blame, as in who to contact as my lawyer, actually, because he is my lawyer. But you are very correct. Maybe I should call him and give him either a heads up or ask him what it is that we should probably do in this situation. It's not like people don't want us out of this neighborhood already. It's not like I don't hear the whispers about how we bring the property value down with all these trash people laying about outside and drug addicts. And the way the neighbors talk about this place is if we are the lowest of the fucking pile. As if one paycheck couldn't land them here asking for help. They don't think about that, though. They think about how they're going to sell their condominiums when the time comes.
You all know that Lolly has proven to be quiet. She drifts out of the mind if she remains too quiet too long. If she's not touching something, if she's not poking mentally or physically at something, she kind of just drifts off into nothingness. It is only as she comes quickly and hurriedly back to where you all are by the office after depositing the pictures out of sight behind this secret door into the actual haven that you realize that she was gone to begin with. But as she comes back, she's... What are you carrying?
Look at it, I found something. She will set the carefully wrapped hammer down on a table, I guess, whatever's nearby.
Oh yeah, there's tons of tables all over the place. People need places to put their things.
Now, ask me why it's important.
Why is
it important?
Because someone killed a cop with that, and there are cops coming to search the place.
Do you unwrap the towels for them to see, or do you not dare touch it again?
I'll pull the towel aside. I can do that without touching it.
There is a piece of rebar, roughly a foot and a half, foot and 3/4 in length. On one end is a gnarled, twisted piece of concrete that it was clearly broken from some structure, some construction area near at hand. There are all sorts of stains along the length of it, browned with age, stained into the very real iron, so much so that it looks like it could have been or might be rust developing. But as the towel is moved, there's a wafting of wind from it. And even after all of these months, after all of these near years, the baked in, coated in, dyed in scent of blood is easy to discern. Those stains are not rust. And that small bit of what looks to be the beginning of black mold is not black mold, it is brain matter.
You're able to just look confused and shift her eyes over to Hestia and Lucio.
Lucio looks at it, just covering his mouth, trying to hide his expression, realizing exactly what Lally managed to find.
Hess looks at Lucio. Oh, so I'm not the only one with things to hide, it seems.
Hey, you helped me hide this.
Well, you need to hide it better. Why did you kill a cop?
It's a long story. I was very new to the nightlife, as it were, at the time. They started it.
What are we, 5?
I mean, that's no reason to bash someone's skull in.
Technically, had to be there. But you're right, we should probably hide this better. Like, not hide it, but like completely destroy it and get rid of it somehow. Now, how do we do that?
Yeah, why are you keeping it?
To be honest, I thought we got rid of it for good. Yeah. Let's throw that in the oven, shall we? Melt that down as much as possible.
I just want to point out that if they are literally on their way, it would probably look a little suspicious to have the oven on.
And then you hear breaks of the last of the original purchased vans for the shelter. Now, the shelter itself has done relatively well considering their funding has stretched for years beyond what was originally expected. They had managed to save everywhere they could so that they can spend that money back into the shelter. One of the places where they pinch the pennies until Abraham Lincoln, gets a bloody nose is on the vehicles. They've had a rash of vehicle theft, vehicle loss. There was the whole fact that one of the vehicles was found at a gunfight in the northern suburbs and drugged back here, and the police were investigating, and it took them about 6 months to get the damaged, destroyed vehicle released back to the shelter. But all the same, they do everything they can to repair them as long as they possibly can. One of the many places they skimp is by buying good old-fashioned non-ceramic, good old-fashioned heavy-duty metal brakes, rotors and drums and all of that, so that squeaking and squealing while the vehicle stops, and can literally stop on a dime at times, as long as it's not too wet or too damp or there's too much snow on the ground. But barring those incidents, it stops on a relative dime if you give it a foot or so. So hearing those brakes immediately triggers that. Who at this hour of the evening? Oh, it's got to be Donnell. What did he leave for? What was he doing? Why was he not here? And then you hear voices, and you realize what night it is. Donnell had taken it upon himself to institute a policy of surfing the whole stroke. There are several places in the city where women of the night and men of the night and various spectrums, places along the spectrum from one end to the other, work. And with it being one of the milder winters in Chicago, those strolls are in full gear. So he strolls. He picks up workers who are forced to work outside, those who can't afford, thanks to the advent of closing down Craigslist and Backpage and all of that, who can't have the hotel room and who risk themselves being out there. And as you hear the voices, and they're coming in, they're all a spectrum of from soprano to a actual full-fledged bass, as he's leading them through the tunnel and down into the shelter, not the shelter haven, and past the office or the commissary, that you see a rainbow of various dress styles, colors, fabrics. Some too tight, some not tight enough, some overly loose, some baggy, some dressed like they just left the gym, and others dressed like they've never been in anything except for maybe gym. As he's leading the past, he's asking, "Hey, Hess, Darcy, Ashton, new girl, why isn't Selma at the front door?"
Helping.
I lost that bit. What was that?
Helping out in the kitchen.
Oh. Why? Molly's gonna kill her. I better get back there. Any word on Sebastian? I keep calling his phone, but he's not answering. And he hasn't answered any of the text messages either.
Why don't you go get our guests settled in and then come back?
Yeah, sure. And he finishes escorting the workers through and into the commissary. There's a scene in every Western movie most Western movies, where the main star, the lead that we're following, our eyes into the world, walks into a saloon, and he pauses in the doorway, or she pauses in the doorway. The swinging doors pause as they stand there adjusting to the dimly lit interior of the saloon. It's that moment as the ladies are settling in. "Oh my God, this smells great!" "Yeah, it's pretty good. Is it? Oh my God, is that actually?" And they're getting in line, and things go quiet. It's clear that Donnell recognizes Sergeant Kamal, even with his jacket off, even him tucking into the delicious plate that Amalia has prepared. Then you hear his footfalls rushing back to the office. Hess, you need to call Javier now, and you need to get I need to get Selma out of here.
Wait, what? What the fuck is going on?
What did Selma do?
Selma has a warrant in 4 states. She's up until recently an activist. She's wanted in connection with several things that she actually didn't do, and there's proof that she didn't do it. However, the charges still stick, and they use bail as a way to make you capitulate. And so Selma's not really Selma, and she shouldn't be in the space where there's police. That's why we need Sebastian. He would have made sure that we had a heads up. Fuck. Javier's number is by the red phone. I need to find a way to create a distraction so that the cop back there doesn't recognize her, or fucking hell.
I'm not sure that he is going to be the issue. The 2 others that are on their way probably are.
What?
This is why we told you to go settle the girls and to come back, because then we could talk. But I will handle the Javier thing. You said near the red phone. I'll go make that phone call. Just need some space so I can talk to him, okay?
Okay. Which one of you guys? I don't know. Fucking hell. Who knows how to work the phone system so we can have somebody up front to stop the cops from actually making it in before we get Selma somewhere safe?
I know how to answer a phone.
Excellent. Sebastian, you sit right there in the middle of the desk so that way you can see all the little doors walking in. If anybody that looks like a cop walks toward the door, you need to call the office and get Hestia up front to act as interference. I'll try to get Selma out through the kitchen window. Fuck, no, I gotta take her around the long way. So I'm gonna get Selma out into the garage as best as I can. Shit. And he takes off running. Only slowing his steps, slowing as you know that he gets closer and closer to the commissary.
How do I call the office? Is there a button that says office?
As soon as he leaves, Lucio will turn to Hestia and say, okay, 2 things. 1, how the fuck did this make it past the background check? And 2, you have your scapegoat.
1.
I mean, come on.
Sebastian
she's
did
a
the
bit
hiring.
of
And 2, yes, I agree.
She might be a bit of a, yeah. But does she deserve that?
I like her.
Do we still have Phoebe's number?
And as that thought crosses Miriam's lips, it is 45 after. Let's take a quick 10 and be back at 5-2. See you guys in a bit.
In a bit.
All right, guys, how we doing? Everybody back?
Present.
Yep.
Here.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so picking it up from the top. With the situation being as it is, with Lolly moving towards the front receptionist desk to handle the phone and keep an eye out, with Darnell moving towards the commissary to find a way to extricate Selma without her attracting too much attention. What is Lucio, Hestia, and Miriam about?
First thing, we need to get rid of this thing. She points to the hammer and the towel. That needs to go bye-bye. And then we need to know exactly what we are going to specifically say to these cops to not implicate ourselves, or me mostly, and how to get them on her trail. And yeah, Miriam, I know this isn't ideal to you, and if you rather stay entirely out of it because you were out of the area when it all went down, then that's fine. But Lucio knows this guy, and we both know how this is going to go if I go down for it.
Which is possibly why I call Phoebe. She might have some suggestions.
Problem is that we don't have a lot of time to call a whole bunch of different people. We need to make a decision. We need to make it now. They're on their way here, he said. So obviously we don't have a lot of time.
You call your lawyer, Lucio calls Phoebe. We have multiple people here.
And while this is being discussed, Lucio?
He is still in the same room, correct?
Yes.
While this is going on, he's trying to piece over in his mind how much time it would take to get in touch with Vivi, how the fact that their clan curse would just inherently make that difficult. And just one other clarifying question. Did they say that there were police officers here already?
No, just Kamal is in the commissary eating.
And in that case, Lucio will speak up, ignoring the fact that communicating by phone is going to be difficult enough for one, La Sombra, let alone two. We don't have a lot of time, and we have a scapegoat practically dropped in our laps.
Who was selected by the poor young lad, presumably to give her another chance.
There's a saying that a broken clock is right at least twice a day. Well, the saying is even a broken clock is right twice a day. The moment that Mirren begins, he selected, mentioning that it might have been Sebastian. Would Hestia be so kind as to roll her composure and either performance, persuasion, or subterfuge to hide the fact that a good bulk of the candidates selected that she parsed through, which had already been moved to a short list, were because Sebastian had been working on it and is part-time. There's an entire hard copy and a computer folder filled with candidates that he's been looking at over the last year.
You said performance and what?
Composure and either performance is just going to put on a try to hide the fact that something's happening inside her head. Persuasion if she's trying to convince them that the opposite of what's happening inside her head, or subterfuge if she's trying to completely just hide it away so that no one realizes something was struck upon.
Composure, subterfuge, or composure, persuasion is my highest, so I'm gonna go with it.
Alright, make it happen. In one of the darkest moments for her, in figuring out who she is, the difference between her and her beast and where that leaves her standing, Hestia is able to summon up a reserve of strength to build a mass and carve it out of granite to hide away that the entirety of Selma being here came from her being on a short list compiled by Sebastian. Even in his off periods, even in the few moments that he took to not be here, to engage in the rest of his life, he was considering and working toward bettering here.
There's a small bit of irony in the fact that he did all that, and yet she couldn't be bothered to do so with the Tremere.
Choice and application. Everything else came first. There were things that were bothering her on a more consistent basis, and as much as it is neither a good thing nor a great thing, the truth of the matter is a lot of it boils down to out of sight, out of mind. If you are able to allow it to slip from your visual awareness, it slips from your mental awareness. And the more it slips, the farther it gets from your view, the less important it becomes, because this fire needs putting out, that fire needs putting out, this plant needs water, that person needs the opportunity to live. And the political machinations of a monolithic entity such as the Tremere, such as the Chantry of Chicago, becomes less important. They have acolytes, they have apostates, they have magisters and regent level Tremere. What could Hestia add to them? What could she have brought to them? What could she have passed along to help ensure their posterity? A great deal. Just the experiences that the coterie have had alone in the last few months is information and factors that could be utilized and used to better someone else, if that information is but shared. And speaking of but shared information and the turning of the great wheel of time, Lolly sitting at the desk, it is impossible to not know that this space is clearly a shared one. There's pictures of a dark-haired girl and a red-haired girl that you don't know. There's a picture of a little girl about 6 or 7, a little boy about 8 or 9. There's pictures of a older version of Sabatian, and you only know what Sabatian looks like because of the pictures you've seen in the triage wing. There's folder upon folder. It looks like the inside of your mind if someone bothered to go inside and tidy it up. There's information on restaurants in the area that give away food, information on restaurants that sell food at a discount. There's information on grocery stores within a 20-mile radius that do donations. There's a folder and a file for everything, and half of it is spread willy-nilly all over the place, and the other half seems to be in the middle of being organized. Someone is taking the time to put that information in a more readily accessible and easily trackable methodology. This feeling of it, the scent of it, is the same that you got when you walk into triage. Someone is turning this maelstrom of chaos into that. Everything in its perfect place, everything easily viewable, everything having a home. And that's kind of funny, at a homeless shelter. And even though that's quite funny, even though it's quite humorous, it doesn't stop Lolly from taking in the world around her, one microbe at a time, being able to view it in advance in every stage of its growth and development. She notices the unmarked police car pass by the outside once and twice, and finally pull in to illegally park directly in front of the building. Inside is an older gentleman about, going on late 50s, early 60s, still fit, still trim. He reminds you of what Arnold Schwarzenegger looks like when he's in the gym, except for this guy's already pumped. He's already inflated and ready, and the readiness of his neck against the collar of his shirt standing out, attracting the eye. The wrinkles from a life hard lived, somehow not detracting from his fairly attractive face. And then beside him, a smaller, whiter version of him. And if the older gentleman is a gym addict, this person is full-blown overdosing on being in the gym. The biceps are bulging through the shirt and jacket, the holster looking like a child's toy thing. And they get out and double check. They spend a second looking around them. And then the younger one reaches back in the car, and you see him fiddling around with something inside, probably either the laptop or their radio. The older one stands looking up at the building across the sidewalk, gauging the area and the environment, and he sees the cruiser sitting there in front of the garage, and he taps the younger and points towards it. They chuckle, and they straighten their jackets, adjust their cuffs, make sure that their pants are neatly fallen over their waist, and everything's up to standards, and they both withdraw portfolios and begin moving towards the doors.
Lolly will appear to look busy.
They walk in. The younger of the two puts on the biggest, brightest, welcomingest smile that he can manage. Looks like someone sawed his face 3/4 in half. It's a little lopsided. You can tell that there's some muscle failure somewhere down the line that he's still dealing with.
Oh, hi. Welcome to the homeless shelter. How can I help you?
Well, that's some branding for you. Hey, I think we have an appointment with the manager or the owner.
It's an odd time to have an appointment, but let me call up there and see if they are available.
Up there? Looks like the rest of the building is abandoned. Are you guys using that space?
No, it's a metaphor, like I'm going down there, let me go up there. You never heard that before?
No, I've heard that. But my old man was he was a preacher and believed in saying what you meant and meaning what you say. So the English language is very, very important. I know that you kids, do that leet speak and everything's vibing and chillaxing and everybody's getting ratioed and all of that. But that's not real English, So no offense, mind you.
Okay.
See, there it is. You don't mean okay. You don't mean that everything's fine when you say that, do you? That's simile, a metaphor, a turning of a phrase. You kind of want me to fuck off or shut up, right?
Look, dude, I make minimum wage. Just let me call them.
Why don't you just point us in the direction where they are? Well, take a look around. We'll make our way back there and talk to them. Nice and friendly.
Because I have to call them. That's the job. That's what they pay me for, to say hello to people and to call them when people are here to see them.
Excellent. So why don't you call them? Who are they, by the way? What's their name? We don't want to just walk back and say, hey, we got an appointment, right?
Hey, if you have an appointment, why don't you know this?
Well, it's a standing appointment. Kind of a turn of a phrase, like a metaphor.
How can you have an appointment when you don't know who you have an appointment with?
Because we have an appointment with the title, not necessarily the person. The person that holds that title is the person.
Well, who made this appointment?
Justice.
Justice who?
Well, the Chief Justice of the Illinois Supreme Court, which, said that in the due course of our duties, that we have the right to speak to and should speak to anyone in reference.
So the Supreme Justice's name is Justice?
You're a funny girl. You're a funny girl. How long have you been doing this?
About 10 minutes.
Who did it before you? Did they train you?
No.
Yeah, that sounds about right. This neighborhood has to be expected. I'm surprised that they found someone so capable.
Okay, let me push buttons till I get someone, and then you can leave me alone.
I'm sorry. I don't want you to think that I'm giving you a hard time. I know that answering the phone and smiling at people on the way in, it's a difficult job. It's hard putting up with assholes. You did really good. Just let them know we're on our way back. And him and the older guy start walking past the desk.
Wait, you need a visitor's tag.
A what? And then he moves his jacket to show his badge.
I mean, that's all very nice, but you need a tag.
Are you serious? Are you fucking serious?
It's protocol.
You think we need a tag?
Here, you can be Justice. Who's your friend want to be?
Wait, you hear that? You hear that? Someone's screaming. Hey, we're on. Just call 911. Let them know we're on the scene, and they take off, moving down the hall.
No one's screaming. And then Lolly will push buttons on the phone because she has no idea how to use this phone system.
No, I told her before she walked away. I don't know if she was paying attention out there. It is marked on the speed dial which one says office.
Oh, well, she could figure that out. She's definitely not stupid.
Oh, no, she is not. And she bought them a few moments. So, as you all are in the office deciding, BB, how to go about it, what are you going to do, who are you going to blame, and whether you're going to go through with pointing fingers at Selma. Because while it is clear that is some of your intentions, you guys haven't actually said it out loud that that's exactly what you're going to do and who's going to take part. And that's important, because just because you decide a thing doesn't mean that you're going to do it. And then the phone rings.
Alright, Hestia. This is your shelter. She's your employee. It's your decision what you do. I'm gonna take care of this rebar before they get here.
Quick like a motherfucking Benny, because I have a feeling we don't have a lot of time. And yeah, I'm gonna go with the obvious fucking gifts that got dropped in our lap. She did keep insisting that he ran off to be with some girl or some such thing, so how would she know all that? Anyway, go do what you gotta do. And she answers the phone so that Lolly isn't caught, not caught, but like left hanging as to whether the message was relayed. Hello? You don't have to say anything. I take it they're on their way back.
Yep, they're on their way back. They wouldn't take visitors' passes. You should admonish them for that. There's protocol. Cops should be all about the rules.
Agreed. I will meet them halfway. And then
Miriam will shake her head, disappointed, and head back to her rooms.
On the way, like, as Miriam's kind of leaving, I know you don't know him, but he'll answer you, and she hands over the card for her lawyer. And the person that really owns the shelter, technically. Please give him a call. I'll be handling the police.
She will sigh deeply and take the card.
So she takes the card. There is, as a living entity, we as humans, we are only semi-solid bags of liquid. We leave our mark on everything that we touch and everything that we're touched by. Doesn't seem like all that much. And while the voices in Miriam's head have been non-existent, that blessed peace and quiet of only her and her beast, the moment the card is in her hands, she's in that room where the kitchen once was, that hidden office just out of view of everyone, and across the table is that smartly dressed man in shirt sleeves, his vest open, his tie loosely undone, and she's reaching across the table to shake his hand and agree that the land beneath their feet would go to, and then she's back here looking at the card. She's back here in this room, and her protector, that spirit, that specter that sought to have a doorway into our world through her to find its other portion of itself, is crawling around her. She can feel it like a feathered boa resting across her shoulders. She can feel it like a warm cable knit sweater that she's pulled on. She knows that it's there because the constant, ever-present chill from all the spiritual activity in and around the shelter has suddenly grown less about her. She knows that it is there. All she would need to do is direct it. All she would need to do is put herself into harm's way, and she is sure that it will act out. She is positive that it will make sure that nothing harms her. Nothing. Everything will work out some way, somehow. But looking at the card that's in her hand simply says, A. Gabriel, attorney at law.
All right. Well, ignoring the momentary spiritual presence, she will pick up her phone and dial the number on it.
As the line connects almost instantaneously, the voice on the other end says, "Who gave you this number?" And we cut away to Hestia moving through the hall towards the police, with Lucio racing through. Now, did he decide to try to sneak it out through the actual shelter or out through the haven?
Probably through the haven, because they would assume that place is abandoned, so it'd be easier to sneak through there. His plan is basically to just find some place in that abandoned area to try and just crush it into a little ball and tuck it in the corner for the time being until they can bury it more appropriately.
And therein lies the thing. As he makes his way through the haven proper, the rebar in his hand, the heft of it somehow lighter than it has ever been. It had been saved by him as a reminder of how far to not go. The thing he didn't mention, and the thing that he didn't belabor too much when it came up, because of the shock of it suddenly just appearing, is he knows that those police officers are alive. He knows that they are out there in the night doing their abject best to live a normal life. Injured and wounded on duty. You even have the link to the original article written about the disappearing officers who were found, saved. Stella never figured out why you had that in the bookmarks and had her bookmark it for you, but Lucio knows the reason why that article was there, because it was a sign as to how far he could go. It's only now, as this rebar weighs almost nothing in his hand, it no longer feels like Jolnir. It no longer feels like Excalibur, like it did that night, with Cameron over one shoulder and Simone over the other, cutting into the police officers, making a mess of them. It no longer feels as if fate and God and all of the other pantheons were shining on him. Right now, it doesn't even feel like a weight of guilt. It's just a reminder that things change. And it weighs nothing. The guilt he had from that night that spurred him on, and it's not there anymore. That line as to how far to not go, he doesn't have it anymore. He looks back over the sand that is the score of his life, and there's nothing. There's no line that he can't cross. There's no Rubicon any longer.
He stares at it for a good long while, reminiscing on that night when he first used it and everything that has happened to him since then, how much has changed, how much he has changed. He remembers he kept it because he wanted to ground himself, because some part of him still believed that if he didn't go too far, he might be able to go back to being human one day, but that was a long time ago. And he's sobered up now. He knows that time has long since passed, even if it was a possibility. And right now, this is nothing more than a liability. So he takes it, and with a little help from Potence, he's going to just bend it into a neat little ball of iron and find a crate or tarp or something in the haven that he can bury it under so that no one would reasonably be able to find it.
Being reasonable has never been a factor in the lives of these particular kindred. Being moderate, somewhere in the middle, has never been the situations that they've been in. It's always been a life and death situation for them, almost nightly. So much so that they don't even realize how crazy the world in which they inhabit actually is, how out of balance things are. They've gone from extreme to extreme. Very rarely have they even noticed the distance between the two ends of the spectrum of which they're on. So often have they gone from literally life-affecting decisions to life-saving decisions that they don't notice, that they haven't noted the effect that they've had on the world around them and how the world around them has affected them. And as the concrete crumbles away, as if you're crushing something as dense and heavy as blowing away the petals of a dandelion, that realization settles in. Elijah is downstairs. There are other police officers who he does not have the same relationship downstairs. Hestia is downstairs. Miriam is downstairs. And Lolly is at the front door. It's impossible to not make that connection between Lolly and Dizzy, but it's even more impossible to not make the connection between Lolly and Clyde. And there was some measure of authentic honesty in Clyde that would not allow him to not say what most popped into his mind, nor mean what he said. For his family, there was nothing that he would not do. There was no one that he would not face down, and no amount of danger he would not throw himself into to protect them. It's only in this quiet moment, as a remark, a reminder of Lucio's initial foray into being a kindred, does that come due. What did they do to Clyde to have him reveal whatever it is he revealed to them? And they've never found out exactly what his testimony was. Did he tell him about the cops that he killed? Did he tell him about the humans that he obliterated to protect his family? Did he tell them about the backdoor agreement they had with the Fixer and Damien and all that the Coterie had gotten up to, including his attempts to destroy the One Kwai as well as the Tremere of the city?
Lucio chuckles a little bit at that last thought, since now the Tremere are guilty of that crime as well.
Mm-hmm. Funny how the tables turn. How what seems extreme in one moment becomes so easily definable as normal the next. And speaking of normal and extremes, Hestia steps out of the office to intercept the police officers who are making their way through the shelter. It's behind her in the commissary. A police sergeant is having a meal prepared by Amalia. And behind her, Donnell is attempting to get Selma out of sight, out of mind, hidden away. And before her, coming down the hall, are two mountains of beef, two cow-sized humans who clearly spend more time in the gym than they do doing anything else in the world. Their aftershave thick and heavy, their jawline freshly shaved, their haircuts freshly done. Rippling, the clothing a hair breadth too tight. The sheer menace in that size, both wide and tall, heading in her direction. And even the Hestia knows that she is dead, long past the ability for most humans to do any real damage to her. There is some remembrance of what this moment would be like. She alone in a decently ill-lit hallway, two large men closing with no one near enough to offer any assistance. Just her and them.
She is going to steal herself because if she does not, everything is going to crumble and fall apart. And it might still anyway, but she is not going to be the reason that it will, as best she can. Stepping up and putting on her authoritative, I run this bitch sort of voice. Gentlemen, what is the hurry? Can I help you with something?
Yeah, you might. We're looking for the manager or the owner. You wouldn't have it in where they are.
Looking at them.
I see. Well, little lady, you got a place we can talk? Somewhere quiet? And he flashes his badge. It's hard to not see the idea of him moving his coat to the side as him flashing you. It's hard to shake that image. Him with a dark beige trench coat, holding both sides wide open as he wiggles his hips, but it's there and it won't go away.
I am going to assume that they teach you that patronizing people isn't normally the best way to go about things. Yes, I am very small in stature, and I am aware of that fact. And I am female, yes, I am also aware of that. Thank you for pointing that out. And yes, we might go to my office and speak.
Sure thing. Wasn't patronizing. I was mentioning it so that it didn't catch me by off guard. My mom, she was a little lady, though she's probably more handsome than you. But my mom was a little lady. She was quite pretty. I enjoyed her. I still enjoy her whenever I get an opportunity to. I'm sorry that me taking a minute of solace and trying to connect with a fellow human was patronizing to you. I'll stop treating you like you're a person.
I'm just gonna give you a little bit of a heads up there. I was a college graduate 2 years before most people my age, with several degrees in botany. I'm fairly almost genius level. So the thing is, you can say and flip and turn it how you wanted to, but you know what you meant when you said it. So us trying to connect and play these little mind games are not going to go well for you. Please have a seat. And she shows them to her office and then goes to sit behind the desk. Instead of sitting on the chair like she normally might, knowing that it will give her the height disadvantage, she normally doesn't mind with like the patrons of the shelter because she wants them to feel comfortable. These two, she is not going to give them that I'm smaller than you, you can bully me energy. sitting on the corner of her desk so that she's slightly just above them. She waits for them to speak.
He smirks and opens up his portfolio. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your wits plus investigation or wits plus awareness? DC 3. And while that roll is happening,
It's an equal pool, but I have a specialization in puzzles. Will that fall into this, or is it not?
no, it's not really a puzzle. It's catching what's incidentally happening with as he's opening his portfolio, and the older detective sits quietly, taking you, the office, in, only just his gaze drifting. And while that's happening, there are several ways that people answer the phone. In this day and age, most people don't answer the phone. They let it go and ring and ring and ring. Or they'll send you, if they want you to know that your call is just not important enough for them to answer any call, they'll send it to voicemail to kind of screen their calls. It's a natural state of affairs. But the people that do answer their phones, there's typically, even in the most professional of moments of answering the phone, there's a cordiality there. Even if they try to infect their voice with either being tired or half asleep, or some will even go nasal and try to sound like they're sick and there's not enough time to talk. But there's still some level of cordiality there that is not present when you dial the number and the immediate response is, "Who gave you this number?"
You will smile briefly, even though it's not something that can be seen over the phone. I was provided this number by Miss Green at the shelter house. She wished me to give her lawyer a call, as there are currently 2 police officers sitting downstairs questioning her.
Police officers or detectives?
I'm not sure. I'm not in the room. I didn't see them. But, let's suffice to say there was an employee at the shelter that was found dead.
How long ago?
This evening, perhaps? We had a sergeant, a friend of Mr. Darcy's, come to give us warning slightly, maybe 30 minutes before the officers arrived, which happened just a moment ago.
What's your name?
I am Miriam Ashton.
You're one of the painted ladies goons. What are you still doing in the city?
I wouldn't say that I'm one of her goons. Never swore any vows.
Would say?
What was that?
Isn't that something that a goon would say?
I suppose so, but no vows taken.
What are you doing at the shelter?
I'm one of her friends.
She don't like you guys. She don't have no friends. Her last
Discreet.
friend is dead in New Orleans.
If you say so.
Ask her what happened to her African partner. But anyway, so you got 2 cops rattling the cage. She told you to call this number, huh?
That's the gist of it.
Do me a favor. You're there now, right?
I am currently difficult to access without providing the back door into things.
Difficult to access is not impossible. So here's what I need you to do. What floor are you on?
Oh, that's a very good question. What floor am I on?
You'd be either on the fourth or I forget. I didn't look at the map just yet, but I'll look at it in a second. But let's say you're on the fourth floor in Simone's old suite that you took as your own.
Floor.
Fourth floor. All right. So on the northeast corner of the building, if you go past the kente cloth that's been carved into the floor on the northeast corner, let me know when you get there.
All right. She will go. And okay, I'm here.
Moving down that hall, you thought was like a lot of spaces in the actual haven. There are blinds built in with the deconstructed rubble. It's purposely left hard to navigate so that strangers and people who don't belong there could easily get lost. And unfortunately, there are quite a few lethal spaces. If you don't know when to duck, you will ram your face into various hard substances that are designed to cause massive damage and bleeding. If you are not watching your step, if you're not careful and you veer off into one of the darkened corners, there's a chance that you may fall through a floor. Or you go to lean against a wall that looks substantial and it is not, and it falls away, causing blood loss, causing damage, rupturing your skin, and various other things. The security features that were built into or made possible in the space were designed to be lethal to humans and dangerous to kindred, so that on both accounts their wounded, bleeding wrecks could be easily found. So it is no small bit of worry as you round the blind and find yourself at the northeast portion of the floor, just past the rooms that you've taken as your own. There's the boards that you know block out windows. There's piles of rubble to your left and right, and this space smells. It's too cool, too damp, too something. There's something else. There's something mildly caustic to the nose. Now, if you're there right now, like you say you are, you look down there to your left in the corner there, right next to the window. If you move the stones around, there's a burner phone right there. Tell me what color it is.
She'll move things around.
And sure enough, there is a flip top phone. Indiscernible how old or how new it is. It is a dark greenish tactical color. Sort of thing that you see military enthusiasts getting up in arms over. And it's clearly designed to take a tumble or to be sturdy.
Pick it up and look at it. It is very sturdy and very military. That green color. Dark green.
On the right, there's going to be 3 buttons. Push that middle one and hold it until it beeps.
Okay. She will do that.
The moment you do, it springs to life. It starts to vibrate in your hand. And while it's vibrating in your hand, it doesn't cause any sound, but you can hear the sound of something vibrating on a wooden surface or a metal surface across the phone line. Okay. You are who you say you are. Look, I can't be there for another 35-40 minutes. You make sure that those numbnuts stick around, and I'll deal with them when I get there. Whatever you do, don't give them any information. Click.
Okay. She will put things back where they were at and make her way out. And I guess she'll go out the back way and back around to the front.
Excellent. That means that you and Lolly are in the same space at nearly the same time as Hestia is settling in with the detectives inside of the office. Also, on the other side of that office door, inside the Haven, is Lucio, who hears them moving around. Now, nothing lives in the shelter, because the kindred aren't really alive. But the sound of movement, the way the sound plays with the imagination, even with the ability to pierce into the dark, there's some part of the lizard that lives at the back of his mind that gets up in arms. There's something moving. There's something alive. There's something maybe alive, moving. And it's not you.
And where does he see this?
Where does he hear this? Moving across the floor above him.
Are there any gaps or openings like in the floor from that he can see from above?
Yes, dark as ever in the unused spaces of the Haven.
Curiosity and paranoia is going to get the better of him. He is going to investigate.
Curiosity killed the cat.
And it's going to kill Lucio.
Everyone knows that aphorism. Curiosity killed the cat. Often is used to say, there's a point when you should stop looking. There's a point when you should not let FOMO take over your life. But the truth of the matter is, like most early educational nursery rhymes and stories about the big, bad, scary world, it's designed to keep you from ever peering into the dark. It's designed to keep you safely ensconced in the light, near the hearth, near the torchlight, near the campfire, so that the real monsters out there, you'll never know. You'll never come face to face with the hungry wolf. You'll never come face to face with the cave lion or the bear or any number of dangerous predators doing what dangerous predators do. But Lucio is a dangerous predator. He is the thing that waits out there in the dark. He is, in fact, the dark itself. And as much as he clings to and hangs on to the idea of the light, some facts cannot be avoided. And as he peers into the space, and as he slinks from shadow to shadow, the darkness deep enough and thick enough to have its own space and weight falls over him like a cloak, like he is in fact the lord of the manor. And as he moves from sound to sound, following it as it scrabbles and scrapes along the floor, he realizes what it is. It is a weirdly heavy infestation of rodentia. And he notices this as he rounds a corner, and he can see them there on their hind legs, arms stretched out in front of them, clicking their one claw to the next, sensing and sniffing the air, their eyes red as fire engines, reflecting the little light that filters into this corner of the Haven. And rodents, rats specifically, aren't that unusual of a sighting. They are inside the haven. They are inside this space. It's designed to be inhospitable. It's designed to be deadly for living things. Yet these rats, of incredibly large size, some of them from nose to rear haunch, not counting tail, as long as the tip of his finger to the tip of his elbow. Some not that large, but still larger than the average, which is the distance of his index finger to the heel of his palm. These rodentia are as large as house cats. These rodentia seem to be watching their steps and who is in their shadow. They're scenting the air and clicking claw to claw to claw. And as only as they're clicking claw to claw to claw, and he waits watching them try to spot and spy him, that he realizes that the scrabbling that he heard, the scraping across concrete that he heard, was a silent hunting party of these overly large rodentia feeding on the desiccated corpse of a cat. Its ribs are sticking out, its mangy fur barely hanging on, and yet the cat, one eye hanging from its socket, is scratching at the air to try to pull itself away.
Oh, shit. Storyteller.
Mm-hmm. Yes?
How large of an area could Tenebrous Avatar cover?
You've never reached your limit. There's always the feeling that you can go larger. There's always the feeling that you can pour more of yourself into it. You can open the doorway between this world and the next where all the darkness exists. There's always the back of your mind, like there's a muscle you could stretch and get that kink out.
Yeah, these things gotta go. So... yeah, he's gonna do it. He's gonna try and get rid of them as quickly and quietly as possible with Tenebrous Avatar. He does not need a colony of carnivorous rodents swarming the shelter while they're being investigated by the police.
So he digs deep and reaches into that space that connects him with the unmaking of all living things. Not the warm and fuzzy beast that lives in his head, but no, that spirit that is there that demands the ending of all things that hold light. And speaking of the ending of all things that hold light, you are sitting across from two fairly competent detectives. You've taken the high road, as it were, looking down on them. And the quiet, older officer just taking it in, while the younger officer... So, I know we get off on the wrong foot. But I don't think that could be helped. Because my partner here says that this is, well, we've pulled the record on this place going back a year, and there have been incident after incidents, including you all harboring and potentially aiding and abetting civil disobedient students. We're not going to call them terrorists, but we know that's what they were, right? So you guys have a history of having bad people here. And me personal, no offense, I think it starts at the top. I could be wrong, and I hope that I am, but I don't think that I am. I think you guys are the sort that rock that NWA, fuck the police, or that cop killer, or stuff like that. You guys listen to it on your radio, don't you?
Actually, I'm more of a jazz person myself, but I take it you're getting at something, or you're hinting that we would be the type to not want to follow the laws. But the thing is, officer, what you're failing to understand is that detective. My apologies.
It's a little patronizing, but it's fine. People make
A
mistakes.
doctor, but yeah, okay. Anyway, when you run a homeless shelter, there are bound to be people that are down on their luck, have less than stellar rap sheets, I guess as it were, people that have stolen or do drugs or who knows what to survive. Now, if I dug around in everybody's business, I would never let anybody in here. But what good would that do to keep them off the streets?
Not my place. Not my circus. Not my monkeys. I don't care. They can be on the street. They can find their own way. The fact that you're harboring so many mentally deficient individuals in one place, bad things are bound to happen, right? You know, just statistically, things add up. And if they add up too far, you're past the tipping point. And I think you guys have been past the tipping point a very fucking long time, right?
Time is a fairly relative opposition, actually. I think we had almost, 10 years? Fairly quiet, mostly. A little bit of gang violence around here and there, but nobody ever points the fingers at them. But for some reason, this past couple of years, ever since they tried to gentrify this place, now it's a problem. Now our people are a blight on humanity. Wonder what started that.
And as he's talking and looking through his portfolio, he, the younger officer, has not made any eye contact with you. He's fixated on looking through his portfolio. The older detective is actually watching you. Every tick, every lack of motion, every forgotten blink, every bit of stillness, he is watching intently. The younger officer gives himself a eureka moment, inhales, and finally looks up at you, a smile on his face. Yeah, you're right. People make things worse. And it used to not be this bad. But with the commonality between it not being this bad and it getting as bad as it is this place. And the people in it. Because even when you guys got good upstanding people willing to give their time, and I'm guessing working for peanuts, and then he turns around the picture that he was looking for. The picture he's looking for is an alley that Hesha recognizes. She was just there a couple of days ago. The alley that she finds is a known hookup space. People make all sorts of deals there, from Craigslist, Facebook deals, to deals that are completely far more illicit than that. People have been accosted, assaulted, and otherwise importuned in that alley. It's a frequent cut through, despite it being a very bad place to find yourself at certain periods. You can move between that alley to the alley that connects with the north portion of the alley that runs behind Oasis. So a lot of drunks, a lot of late night crowd, a lot of people frequent through the space, depending on the hour of the day. And it's not the alley that causes her to fight the urge to suck in a deep breath. Not the alley itself that stops her from remembering to breathe. It is what's in the alley. The broken-necked corpse of Sebastian. Easy to discern. And as she looks at the picture in the detective's hand, pulls out another. A close-up of the bruising along the boy's neck. Because even though he was of legal majority, it's difficult to see him as anything more than a child. It's difficult to see him as anything but a boy. He was always happy, smiling, and willing to give. Had that enthusiasm that most people lose with age. And there he is amongst the trash. And there he is, tossed away like last year's broken toy. And the insult to it all, the injury of seeing it, to seeing his body cool with Chicago's night breeze, is the fact that someone who was not her had bothered to go through his pockets again. The shoes she left on his feet, gone and missing, along with one of the socks. The shirt, clearly having been taken off and put back on, probably because it didn't fit whoever wanted to take it. The jacket laying 2 feet away. His thinness, his wanness, making it difficult for his clothing to fit. But it didn't stop someone from trying. And that understanding, with knowing all that he did to help the underserved, the impoverished, the outsider, those who've been cast off by society, that drives home the dagger all the more center. Even in death, there was no rest for him.
Like most of the time that they were in the office, granted, she knew the younger one was speaking to her and he was doing whatever it is, trying to intimidate, but she knew the older one was the problem because they've been on the job longer. They know more tricks, they know more mental games, so she's kind of been keeping her eye on him rather than the younger one. And when she switches her vision to the picture that's been shown, yep, that's a very bad part of this town. Very bad neighborhood.
Would you be so kind as to roll your composure and either persuasion or subterfuge? And while that roll is happening, Lolly, Miriam, Seeing Miriam, who you know was back in the office, come through the front door, where does that place Lolly in regards to what she's immediately, instantaneously feeling? You know that there's two officers who are agents of chaos at best and heralds of the apocalypse at worst.
Lolly is kind of unsure what to do. She can't go back there because she's supposed to be manning the phones, and abandoning that ruse sends off more red flags.
And Miriam is walking through the door.
Hey, where are you going?
To the office.
You were outside?
Yes.
Why were you outside?
Sometimes a stroll is useful to clear the head.
Do you think I should have their car towed? They can't park there.
They're cops. They can get away with it.
Why does nobody respect the rules?
Oh, because it would be a boring world if they did. We'll be back. She'll trundle on into the office.
There's a lot in the air. There is a crashing from above. There is the bombshell that just took place in the office. There is the promise from some incorporeal voice on the other end of the phone. And there's the fact that decisions have consequences. And those consequences are most dangerous when they are not seen. They are at their most dangerous when they are able to creep upon you like thieves in the night. While time is the thief of always, most people forget that. They get wrapped up in the moment in which they are and ignore the fact that time is constantly moving forward. The bell is always tolling. And while your name may not be what's on the angel of death's lips, the effects of him, her, and it taking things from you echo on into immortality. There's a feeling that comes over one when something is taken from them. There's a feeling of loss. There's a cycle, a few steps of grief that manifest themselves in ways that are impossible to truly catalog. You have the idea as to what they'll do to you. You have an idea as to what they'll engender in you. But the true toll of that loss is indescribable. Because for every person, there's a different way that it manifests. Even though the catalyst may be and is always the same thing. Something taken from you. And as the sanctity and security of the Rodentia above is taken from them. And as Lolly seriously considers calling the number that's listed there, the Castle and Tower Towing Company. And as Miriam takes steps to close the distance between herself and the office, Hestia realizes what was taken from her in this moment, in this exchange. Having kept an eye on the older detective, she realizes that she's seen him before. She realizes that he was one of the detectives there when Faye and Stella were swatted. He was one of the detectives there when Donnell and Amalia had been carried out. He arrived on scene because they were called. He was one of the detectives that initially followed up on on the missing officers out front. He was one of the detectives that appeared after 9 out of the last 12 debacles here at the shelter. He was also one of the dialed in detectives when the shelter was being watched by theists or the FBI or the combination of a joint task force. And what's been taken from Hestia are options. There's no path but forward. She realizes that the reason why she was shown the pictures, because there's several ways people try to hide themselves. One, by overreacting, but most importantly, in underreacting, knowing what the news is before it's shared. And he, much like the cat that got the canary, took her options away. Because he's been here. He's been around the shelter ever since Raoul and his cousin were selling items, food, to Donnell out of the back door. And with that realization and recognition dawning, the office door slowly opening as Miriam walks through, and the sound of unbridled destruction happens from above. The other shoe drops. And I'd like to thank you all for a lovely episode, and I'll see you guys next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
No.